If you're trying to be a collegiate level athlete or a professional level athlete or to make your high school team, like whatever it is, like you have to do this. This is a prerequisite to all of that. And if you don't, then you're just leaving something on the table that someone else that you're competing with is doing, and they're going to gain an advantage over you. That's the reality. This is a job. Like true development to play college baseball is a job, and most people don't understand it. It is one of the hardest things to do. Hey, welcome guys. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate all of you guys. Been talking about doing this for a while, but nutrition is one of the biggest keys to being successful as an athlete. Like we have to get bigger, we have to get stronger. And obviously those aren't the only things, but if we miss that aspect of it, then, you know, reaching our full potential as an athlete, playing at the next level, it's going to be difficult. So what I've done here is I've broken down nutrients into our macronutrients, just for the purpose of like building muscle, endurance, and the recovery process as an athlete, which obviously is extremely important. And then at the end of the day, it's like this almost promotes a whole foods type of diet. That's not the only way to do this, but when we look at the types of nutrients that we're trying to put into our body and doing that most efficiently, you're generally going to be focused around some type of whole foods type diet that takes away a lot of the refined types of foods, just so that we can maximize our potential as an athlete. So first, we kind of have to understand calories, what calories are. A calorie is a unit of energy, and essentially it's the amount of energy the food provides when you consume it. So we have to put gas in a car to actually be able to move the car. We have to put food or calories in our body for our body to actually function. 1 calorie is needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1%. And so we're going to use that heat, we're going to use that energy with these calories to burn that energy and to use it for exercise and just daily functioning. And then different types of energy sources we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about carbohydrates. We're going to talk about proteins and fats. Carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. It's the same thing for protein, and then fats have about 9 calories per gram, okay? So when talking about balance is key, most athletes that we're talking about here, and most of you guys, are trying to gain weight and put on some sort of like lean muscle mass, okay? So that's the idea. A caloric surplus is consuming more calories than your body burns, which leads to weight gain, or consuming more calories than your body burns leads to weight gain, okay? And then burning more calories than consumed leads to weight loss. So that's a caloric deficit. If we're trying to lose weight for a particular purpose, you don't necessarily just want to be in a caloric deficit because you're not eating food. You have to eat food, you have to eat the right foods. We still need energy, but being able to burn a certain amount of calories while consuming the right foods and still getting into a caloric deficit might be the best way to do that. And then eating the right foods in the right quantities and eating more than what we're typically eating now, obviously is what's going to be needed for us to gain weight, okay? I think it's important to understand how to read a nutrition label. And so I have just a basic label right here. And as you look at this, you're always going to see how many total servings are in a container. So this particular item has 4 servings per container. And then 1 serving is 1 cup. So you just multiply the single serving size by how many total servings are there. So there's 4 total cups in this particular product, okay? And then 1 cup equals 280 total calories. 1 cup equals all of these macronutrients here as well. So in 1 cup of this product or food, there's 9 grams of total fat, 35 milligrams of cholesterol, 850 milligrams of sodium, 34 grams of carbohydrates, and 15 grams of protein. Okay, so if you take 1 cup of this and eat it, that's how many calories and total macronutrients you'll get within your body. Okay, there's subcategories within each of these categories. So our fats are broken down into saturated fats and also trans fats, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. Okay, so looking at the calories and all of this, we're going to break these down into subcategories. So out of 1 total cup, we've got 9 grams of total fat. It's broken down into saturated fat and trans fats. Okay, we'll talk about those a little bit later. Looking at the carbohydrates, and this is probably one of the most important ones that we're going to talk about when we're breaking these down into subcategories. You've got 34 total grams of carbohydrates here, but that's broken down into dietary fiber, which is a type of carbohydrate and sugar. There's 4 of the 34 grams, 4 of them are total fibers, or dietary fibers. 6 of those are total sugars, and then you've got another subcategory which is included 0 grams of added sugar. This is one big category right here where it says added sugar that I really want everyone to pay attention to. Reason being is because that's typically the refined sugars that are going into your foods, and those can do a lot of different things. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the main things that I want to do, and there's going to be a takeaway from this, it's like basically where you guys are at right now, eat as much food as you possibly can. And if we have to avoid one single thing, let's avoid our refined sugar content. And that's the category that you're going to look for in things. Now, does that mean avoid it at all costs? No, you're gonna take in sugars, okay? But if we can reduce that as much as possible, we need to, okay? And then obviously protein is really important. These are your micronutrients right here, your vitamins, minerals, and so on, okay? Looking at macronutrients, this is kind of just a chart. It's going to show different types of foods that are carbs, proteins, and fats. If you can keep your diet within this middle range right here, where these types of foods are high in fats and protein, and these types of foods are high in carbs and protein, and then you're eating these types of foods for high levels of protein, you're a little bit more efficient when it comes down to the types of foods that you're eating to get all of the nutrients in a day. It's hard. It's really difficult, especially if you're trying to get anywhere from, for a younger guy, maybe 3,000 calories or 3,500 calories. Someone else might be trying to get in like 4,000 to 5,000 calories, and you're trying to get in large quantities of protein and carbs. You want to eat the foods that are going to cross over into each of these categories and have a lot of carbs and a lot of protein in it. Okay, then there's 2 types of carbohydrates we're going to talk about. You got complex carbs that are found in like whole unprocessed foods, including fruits, vegetables, legumes. And then you've got simple carbs. These are the sugars and starches that have been refined and stripped of their natural fiber and nutrients, okay? So complex carbs are found in whole unprocessed foods, and basically, if you can find a food that you just plucked off of a tree or a seed or something that just came from nature, that's a whole unprocessed food, okay? If it's been refined down and you don't have the actual like product that was grown, then you're looking at something that's a little bit more refined, okay? And those are the simple carbs that we want to watch out for. Okay, complex carbs are highly nutritious, but simple carbs are not, okay, at the end of the day. Just kind of a chart that just shows you we've got complex and simple carbs. There's different categories within that, but we're going to talk about these 2 different types right here. These 3 types of carbohydrates are all simple carbs, okay, and it means that they have 1 sugar molecule or at least less than 10. But a complex carbohydrate has got 10 or more molecules. This is more of a better diagram to kind of show that. A simple carb has 1 molecule, okay? Or 1 or 2 or 10 or less. A complex carbohydrate is going to have this like complex chain of carbohydrate molecules that are bound together. In the body, what happens is we break each one of these individual bonds to get a single molecule, and that's done through enzymes in our body, enzymes in our saliva, enzymes in our stomach and intestines. And if you look at it like this, a simple sugar, it's a lot easier to absorb one or to break one bond and then absorb these two individual molecules. And it takes a lot less time to do that than it does to break this entire chain down and absorb that into our intestines, into the body. And what that means is like this type of carbohydrate is not going to spike our blood sugar levels as high and as fast, and that's going to help us sustain energy for a longer period of time. Okay, we can kind of see that here. We got some simple refined sugars and carbohydrates. I wore a Dexcom unit, which is generally for people who have diabetes, but I wore one for 2 weeks and tested different foods out just to determine and see if I eat refined sugars, does it actually really spike my blood sugar levels really high, really fast, and do I crash really low? If I eat more complex carbohydrates, what does that do? When I'm eating more protein type foods, how is that helping me sustain energy? And every single time I ate some sort of like sugar or candy or refined type carbohydrate, like super quick, my blood sugar levels spiked really, really high, and then they just tapered off. And every single time I had some sort of complex carbohydrate, it was a slow rise and a slow taper off, and I sustained that energy for 30, 40 more minutes, maybe even an hour in some cases. The issue with spiking blood sugar levels like this so fast and so quickly is that if you do this too often throughout your body for a long period of time, you can develop different forms of diabetes. Okay, and then also, like if we're trying to perform, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's on a ball field or whatever, and we just have a bunch of simple sugars and carbs, it's not necessarily going to help us throughout that workout or throughout that performance and sustain energy throughout maybe a whole game. A 7-inning game can take 2.5 hours. Okay, and then if you're playing a 9-inning game, I've been in a 4-hour plus 9-inning games. You have to take in nutrients throughout that period of time to sustain your energy through to be able to perform as best as you can. Okay, just another pictograph, I guess, or pictures of just different types of complex carbohydrates. You can see you pretty much can take most of these foods and just harvest them right out in the field. Take that and then cook it and eat it. Okay, these take a lot more refining to do. Okay, carbs aid in muscle building. They're protein sparing, which means if we're not using carbs as our energy source, then our body is going to go to our muscle reserves and break our muscles down and use the protein that's in our muscles to provide us with energy. Okay, so we want to eat carbs so that our body will use those sugars as the energy source, so that when we take in proteins, which are the building blocks of our muscles, we're not breaking down the muscle that we've been trying to build for so long. It already takes a long time to build muscle. Okay, so we don't want to take the protein and the muscle that we've built and then go tap into that protein reserve in our muscles and break that down for an energy source. And that's where you and I were talking yesterday. Okay, we need carbohydrates. The other thing is that consuming a post-workout can prevent muscle loss and help muscles repair. And then they increase the rate of transportation of amino acids. So proteins are broken down into amino acids, carbs are broken down into sugars. But carbs will actually help transport amino acids to the place that they need to go within the body. So how many carbs per day? Okay. Usually I look at this at about like 3/4 of a gram to 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you want to make this really simple and really easy, just 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you weigh 100 pounds, you're going to take in 100 grams. If you weigh, if you're just doing 0.75 grams, 3/4 of a gram, per body weight, you weigh 100 pounds, you're taking in 75 grams per day. So you can make it really simple to make it a 1-to-1 ratio and just take in 1 gram per pound of body weight. For guys that are a little bit younger, you may not be able to take in that many carbs per day. You might have to start off at the 3/4 of a gram. Or if you really haven't been eating a whole lot in general lately, you might want to start off at the lower end range. But ideally, especially if you're working out on a regular basis, go to that 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay, 1 gram of sugar equals 4 calories. 4 grams of sugar is 1 tablespoon, and then 1 can of soda, Coke, is 9 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, let's look at this. Like, how much refined sugar should we actually eat per day? There's a lot of different resources out there that are going to say a lot of different things, but I think most of them are saying that like no more than 10% of your total calories per day should be taken in as a refined sugar. So most everyone here is going to probably hover within 500 to 750 calories of needing to consume, needing to consume around 4,000 calories per day. Younger guys might need to consume 500 less than that, or 750 less than that. Bigger guys, older guys, you might be wanting to take in a little bit more than that. And so I use this number of 4,000 calories. If we take 10% of that, then we should not take in more than 400 calories of refined sugar a day. But if we break that down into how many grams, which is what you're going to see in the nutrition label, you divide that by 4 calories, and that's 100 grams of sugar per day if you're taking in 4,000 calories. A typical diet on most nutrition labels is assuming that the average person is taking in 2,000 calories a day. And so that would be, for the average person, that would be 50 grams per day if you're taking in 2,000 calories. And just look at this again, these are just like a 12-ounce bottle of soda, 16 and 20 ounce. You can get to your daily max count of sugar, refined sugar a day, in just 1 drink, ultimately, if you're taking in 2,000 calories. Okay, and so we want to be able to spread out those refined sugars throughout all the different foods that we take in. We don't want to just tap out on how many total grams of sugar we can take in per day, just within two cans of soda, right? Because we're going to be eating a lot of food. Okay, getting into the protein side of things. These are the building blocks of our muscles. Okay, they're chemical building blocks, called amino acids, and so I'll show you a kind of a chart that breaks down what they are. But like I said, carbs are broken down into simple sugars, proteins are broken down into amino acids. We use those amino acids to then build up muscle tissue and other things within our body. Back down here it says yes, they can also be used as an energy source. We talked about that earlier, but preferably not. We want to use sugars to do that, or carbohydrates to do that. Okay, so if you look at like an amino acid chain like this, enzymes in our body will cut each individual amino acid off into individual amino acids that our body can then utilize and break down and put together in the ways that it needs to build the muscles that we have. There's about there's about 20 different amino acids that link together in different combinations. 11 of them are non-essential amino acids because our body can make those themselves. 9 of them are essential, meaning the body can't make them, and we have to get those in through food. Okay, so when we look at complete and incomplete proteins, all that means is all 9 essential amino acids are in the foods that are a complete type of protein. Okay, so fish and other seafood, meat products, eggs, here's some different types of plant products. All of those are a complete protein. They have the 9 essential amino acids that we need to take in from our food supply. An incomplete protein is missing 1 or more of the essential amino acids. These are all really good foods to eat at the end of the day, but you're going to have to take those in different combinations to make sure that you get in all of the essential amino acids, the 9 essential amino acids within that. Does that make sense? Okay. So how much protein per day? It's the same as carbs, 3/4 of a gram to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Make it simple for yourselves, especially because you're wanting to maximize lean muscle mass right now. Take in a gram per pound of body weight if you can manage that much throughout the day. Okay, so same ratios right there. Younger guys, you might have to start off with a little bit less than a gram per pound of body weight. Okay, dietary fats and oils. So lipids are fats. And then we saw this in the nutrition label. You've got your unsaturated fats, and you've got some saturated type fats, but the unsaturated ones are the ones that are better for us typically. You'll kind of be able to know what they are because they're liquid at room temperature, but they're beneficial because they can improve your blood cholesterol levels, ease inflammation, and stabilize heart rhythms. Now, one of the things that we deal with as athletes is inflammation on a regular basis. When you go into the weight room and you lift or you do all the things that we're doing, we're throwing, we're hitting, like we're using our muscles, we're creating inflammation. But foods that we take in can also create inflammation into the body that result in different types of diseases. And so we don't want to eat foods that are going to increase inflammation because we're always trying to recover from inflammation from the physical activity that we're already doing. We start eating a lot of bad foods. Simple sugars are one of those things that increase inflammation in the body at a very high rate. Okay, and it's another reason why I like to stay away from it, because especially if you're a pitcher or you just are throwing a lot in general, you want to be able to recover and get back to your next outing at full strength. And if you have like continual inflammation in the body, you're just not going to be able to get to that place. You're always going to be sore. You're always going to be feeling like you're hurt, and your body's going to break down a lot faster and a lot quicker. Okay, so we want to avoid inflammation or inflammatory type foods. And your unsaturated fats are one of those things that's better for you and it's not going to create inflammation. Fats are needed because there's fat-soluble vitamins, including A, D, E, and K. Without the presence of fat, when you're taking in those types of vitamins, your body won't actually absorb those vitamins in, and you won't be able to utilize them. So fat's absolutely necessary for us to actually absorb different types of nutrients within our body. Okay, two types of good fats or unsaturated fats. You've got your mono unsaturated fats, and they're found in high concentrations in plants typically. And then they're obviously the oils extracted from plants. But you've got olive, peanut, canola, avocado, nuts, and seeds. Polyunsaturated fats are found in high concentrations in sunflower, corn, soybean, flax, fish. And then these are some of the best these omega-3 fatty acids are found in very high concentrations in fish. And these are some of the most important types of fats that you can get. If you can find foods that have omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, those are the types of foods that we want to target the most, okay? The body can't make these, so they must come from foods as well. We'll get into some of the different types that are there. Okay, an excellent way to get those omega-3 fats is through eating fish 2 to 3 times per week, and then good plant sources include flax seeds, walnuts, hemp seeds, canola oil, other types of nuts, and so on. What happens though is we can take even some of these types of like good fats, and then you heat them to really high temperatures, and it denatures that fat, and then it makes it a fat that's not good for you anymore. We have some that are like this that we just want to avoid taking in high contents like butter, palm and coconut oils, cheese, red meat. All of these fats are typically solid at room temperature. So that's one way to start to identify them. It doesn't mean don't eat those things. You have to eat those things, okay? But we want to avoid how many of those we're taking in. Okay? Trans fats are the worst types of fat for the heart and blood vessels. They raise your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol, create inflammation, contribute to insulin resistance, which means that you're not going to be able to absorb the sugars that you need for energy broken down from the carbohydrates. Okay, and then for each additional 2% of calories from trans fats consumed, the risk of heart disease increases by 23%, which is a really high number. And that generally is going to happen over a longer period of time. But as soon as you start hitting 40s, 50s, and so on, that's where those numbers really start to become an issue, and you actually have to worry about those. But for you guys, the biggest issue that you guys are going to have to worry about at a younger age is the fact that it's going to increase inflammation in the body. And so your recovery time from workout to workout or outing to outing increases, and you don't want to do that. Just some pictures of the different types of foods. So a lot of your fried foods, you're taking some of those good oils, you're frying them, denaturing that oil and denaturing that fat, and then you're consuming these high quantities of bad fats and bad oils. Cholesterol in the body, what it does is it blocks your arteries. So if your artery wall is right here, you know, where this pink line is, cholesterol will clog up those arteries and restrict blood flow through it. And you can see like that kind of happens here as it's going into the heart, and that's what creates a heart attack. Okay, so bad fats will increase bad cholesterol within the body, and it can start accumulating in these arteries. So high cholesterol can injure the artery wall like this, and then cholesterol can start infiltrating on the inside of that artery until it clogs that. And then that's what heart disease ultimately is, and then generally results in a heart attack and death at a high rate. Just kind of an image of the types of foods that clog up arteries. Okay, 13 healthy fats, you can just kind of see right here. There's kind of a theme here. Again, it's a whole food kind of product or item. A lot of seeds, a lot of nuts, fish, and you consume those types of things in their whole food state, and they're generally going to be a healthy fat. So how much fat per day? A little bit different number, 0.4 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. Let's make it really simple. Let's just go, you know, a half of gram per pound of body weight. That makes it a lot more simple. That way you've got carbs at a 1-to-1 ratio, you've got protein at a 1-to-1 ratio, and then you have fat at a half to 1 to ratio. Okay, so if we were doing 0.5 grams per 100 pounds of body weight, you would need 50 grams per day. Okay, pretty simple. Now, how does this look for you guys? This is the more practical application for you guys, because you have to figure out how to get all of these nutrients in a day, and you're at school 7.5, 8 hours out of the day, or you're at practice, and then you're training. So it's like, how do you do this? So I broke this down into like a school day for you, okay? And the first thing that I wanna ask is like, raise your hand if you eat breakfast every day on a regular basis, okay? So about half do and about half don't. The ones that don't eat breakfast on a daily basis, you will start gaining weight within a week or two if you just start eating breakfast. We need to get into a caloric surplus, and if you just add one more meal to your day, you're gonna start gaining weight. So if you're sitting here and you're like, I don't eat breakfast, and I don't do it on a regular basis, and you're wondering why you don't gain weight, that's probably the number one reason, and the first thing that you should go to is you don't eat breakfast. Now, if there's any other meals throughout the day that you don't eat, then that's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna have the same effect, okay? So at the end of the day, this is for a 4,000 calorie diet per day, which would probably be sufficient for most everybody here to gain lean muscle mass if you're lifting, and you're getting your macronutrients levels that you want into that. So at breakfast, if you could consume 750 calories, then between, this is where it gets difficult, between first and second period, 350, between first and second, second and third period, another 350, taking 750 calories at lunch, 350 again, 350 after school, 750 at dinner, and then another snack before you go to bed. 350 calories is actually really difficult between classes. okay? It's probably gonna be a little easier to get into 150 with certain types of snacks, and you might have to increase breakfast, lunch, and dinner to a higher calorie count to drop these numbers here. But I just wanted to show you that for 4,000 calories, it's not easy. It's very difficult. And if I'm trying to be, conservative at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that means I got to put in a lot. So what do you do to do this? You take a lunchbox with you in your backpack, or you ask for a locker at school, and you're constantly having to snack. You get out of class, you have a snack, okay? And you're going to your locker and you're grabbing those things, or you're pulling it out of your backpack. If you don't, you have to take, the 350 calories between each of these class periods, and then you have to figure out how to consume those at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe one other snack throughout the day. Yeah.
What if I'm not hungry though?
Yeah.
It doesn't taste good.
Yeah, too bad. No, but it's a good question, because that's what happens. And the reality is, if you want this bad enough, it don't matter. It just becomes something that it's uncomfortable. Eating is a task within itself. It's hard. If you're not hungry, eat anyway. Okay? If it doesn't taste good, then, have a bottle of water, chew it, and then use the water to help you get it down. Like, this is what you literally have to do. Okay? No, it's true though. Like, guys, look, I was a hard gainer. Okay? It was extremely difficult for me to gain weight and to put on muscle. But that means that it was more important and it was more difficult for me, and I had to work at it even harder. Okay? It's just what it takes. And I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. It sucks bad. It's a chore, but you have to do it. And I mean, I've said this to some of you guys here, I know, but like, I went and looked at LSU baseball team's average body weight per player, and it was like 205 pounds average, to play at a Power 4 school like that. Okay, so and then, how long do you think it takes to put on 20 pounds of lean muscle? Anyone? 2 years? Anyone else? What's that?
Our friends put on 20 pounds.
In a month?
Like during the summer.
Okay, throughout a summer, so 3 months. Okay, so lean muscle and just 20 total pounds are two totally different things. Okay, you can put on 20 pounds, which is gonna push water weight into your cells. You're gonna increase the total amount of fat that you have throughout your body, and then also muscle. And so in a 3-month time period, putting on 20 total pounds of those three things is probably realistic for a lot of people, okay? But lean muscle, where we're talking about actual muscle mass, not a fat content, is gonna be, about 2 years, okay? You may have gained, 30 total pounds over that 2 years as well. And it may even take longer. For me, that would have taken me 3 years of lean muscle mass. And so it takes a long, long time to put on weight, okay? The other side of it, okay, how many pounds do you think you should put on in a month? Yeah, well, just weight, weight, not lean muscle, just weight. 2 pounds? 2 pounds per month? 4 pounds per month? 5 pounds per month? Okay? Yeah, that's probably, generally I'm looking at this at, most people should expect to gain about a ½ pound per week. So that's 2 pounds per month. Other body types, like larger body types, and genetics plays a huge role into this. You're gonna gain, if you can put on 1 pound per week and gain 4 pounds, 5 pounds over a month, that's absolutely insane. But you usually have to be a certain body type to do that. Okay, so it's really difficult. Most people, hard gainers, you could expect to put on like a quarter to half a pound per week, but that's not gonna get you to where you need to get to in the course of 2 years, and now you've got to force more out of yourself, and that's even more difficult. But I would just say be comfortable with anywhere between half a pound to 3/4 of a pound per week, okay? Anything beyond that, I mean, the level of training and the level of eating that you have to do that is absolutely insane. It's really, really difficult for the average person, okay? And so most people aren't going to be able to do that with their schedules and everything else. Those are your like professional, high level professional, bodybuilders and lifters that are able to do that. Unless you're a particular body type, but most people are not. And then you're training so much, you're losing, and if you're not, if you're skipping a meal here and there, like it's gonna be difficult. So I think it's important to set the expectations the right way, right? You have to set your expectations to something that's realistic, because what happens is most people start this process and they're like, I didn't gain 10 pounds over a month. And then you kind of just get discouraged and you stop and you give up. And it's like, yeah, that's not how the human body works. Okay, it's not really possible to do that. So we have to set our expectations the right way so that we can be consistent over time. Because yeah, 20 pounds of lean muscle mass over 2 to 3 years, that's a little more realistic. And that might be 30, 40, 50 pounds total. Okay, so set the expectations the right way. Going back to this chart real quick. Okay, protein throughout the day. If for 176 pound, I just used 176 because the numbers were a little easier here. But a 176 pound person would need to take in 42 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then 10 grams between each class and snack. This is actually pretty realistic. That should be doable for everybody. And a lot of times, I don't worry so much about calories as much as I do what's my protein, carb, and good fat intake. And as long as you're hitting these numbers right here with the right types of foods, you're building lean muscle mass if you're lifting, okay? And if you come shy of your caloric intake, you're not gonna be too far off, and you're not gonna be that bad. You're just not gonna put on as much weight in terms of fat. It'll be lean muscle mass, okay? So that's ultimately what we're looking for. Same thing with carbs, because that's a 1-to-1 ratio. That's very doable. And then fats right here. You've got to get creative and look for different types of foods that are gonna give you that amount of fat in one serving in a short period of time. But again, that's where you go back to that chart at the beginning of this, and I'll go back to that. But it has the proteins, carbs, and fats, and it's like which ones have all three of those things in them, and you want to utilize those foods the most. Okay? Okay, that's it. Let me go back to this chart right here. That right there. Okay, we want to find the types of foods that are high in protein and carbs, high in fat and protein, and high in protein in general. And we want to eat as many of these as we possibly can, and we want to snack on these other things. Does that make sense? Okay, that's pretty much it for this. But the point is like we need to set our expectations the right way. Okay, you need to understand that it's really difficult to gain 10 pounds in a month. That's very, very hard. And if you're trying to get to 175 or 180, 190, 200 pounds, it's going to take years from where you guys are at. We have athletes here that are, in puberty, post-puberty, or just barely past post-puberty. The body is now just starting to grow for most of you guys. Okay, and so you can't expect the body to do things that are really just impossible for it to do. Set those expectations the right way. Okay, what I'll do is I'll create something that summarizes all of this and is like, what are the types of foods that you should be eating? I'll give you that like schedule for like a daily schedule, and I'll put a few other things together in here, like all of the ratios that you should be looking at. and then I'll send this out to all of you guys so that you have something to take with you. If you have any questions, you can text me, call me, ask questions while we're here, any of that. Make sense? Okay. Any questions on this? Yes.
What if I just want to carry around protein bars and protein shakes?
Okay, I meant to touch on this. Okay, I actually don't like, so the protein shakes and protein bars and all of that stuff, yes, utilize them, but that is not the majority of your protein that you take in throughout the day. It is, you need the mass quantity of food. You need the fiber that comes from food as well. Okay, so there's way more details to this, but I really generally don't like more than 10% of our protein content to come from a refined protein shake or something like that. Now, if you're just like, I'm just starting out with this whole process, eat it. Just eat it, do it, okay? Like, but then you have to get a lot better. I like your carbs and protein and all of that. I like that to come from food, a whole food source of some sort, not a refined product like a protein shake, okay? Does that mean you don't take protein shakes? No, just use it as a supplement. You know, 10 to 15% of your total protein content throughout a day can come from that, okay? But again, if it means that I'm either gonna eat this protein bar or I'm not gonna eat this protein bar, eat the protein bar, right? Like, just make it simple. But you'll gain more weight. I had a guy do this. He came to me, short, stocky, could easily put on weight for the most part, but he got to this place where he's like, Coach, I'm taking in probably 175 grams of protein a day. I'm just trying to gain 5 pounds, and I can't. He's like, I'm like, okay, so what are you eating? You know, that's my first question. He's like, well, you know those Costco protein shakes? He goes, I'm drinking like 10 of those a day, you know? And I was like, yeah, that's your problem. But he's like, but I'm taking in all the protein content I need to take in. And I'm like, no, you need food. And that's not, it's probably not like, it doesn't have all, it's not a complete protein half of the time, okay? And I'm like, just, you're not getting the calories, you're not getting the fiber, you're not getting the food, you're not getting all the other nutrients. I said, just start eating food. Only take in about 30 grams of your protein from that a day, 50 max. Within 2 weeks, he was up like 8 pounds because he started eating more food. So eat more food, but if it comes down to it and you're like, this is all I have, or this is all I'm willing to do, or nothing, then eat something, okay? If it comes down to, I got this thing and there's a lot of refined sugar in it, or I'm not gonna eat something, eat the refined sugar right now. You guys aren't gonna develop diabetes. Like, you start getting 40, 50 years old, like, that's different. Or if you're genetically predisposed to it, that's a different story and a whole different conversation. But you guys just need to eat. Eat as much food as you possibly can, and you've got to do it consistently throughout the day, and you have to plan for it all day long. Okay? Does that answer that?
Yeah, but what if my parents are gone and I'm hungry? What do I do?
We should have just done this the whole time. Because actually, this is the more practical application of this conversation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, learn how to cook.
I mean, but the reality is you're talking like 8 meals a day.
Yes, 8 meals a day.
Responsibility is it to
Yeah,
prepare that?
100%. You guys got to figure this out. You have to. If you're trying to be a collegiate level athlete or a professional level athlete or to make your high school team, like whatever it is, like you have to do this. This is a prerequisite to all of that. And if you don't, then you're just leaving something on the table that someone else that you're competing with is doing, and they're going to gain an advantage over you. That's the reality. This is a job. Like true development to play college baseball is a job, and most people don't understand it. It is one of the hardest things to do, especially now. It's harder to play college baseball now than when I played. I promise you. The level of competition is so much better. There's so many more resources out there. There's so much more technology. Athletes are getting better. You guys are better. than the athletes than when I was playing, you know, as a whole. And so there is a lot of competition. This is a job. If you want to play college baseball, get used to the fact this is a job. I promise you. There's no way around it. And if you don't treat it like that, and if you don't embrace that, and you don't own that and let that be part of who you are and your being as an athlete, that's your makeup. I'm a baseball player. Well, this is what is included in that. And in order to get to those levels, you have to be able to accept that and embrace it. Yeah. Yeah, so talking about spreading this out throughout the day, our body does not absorb 176 grams of protein at one time. Okay, it's not going to utilize all that. We generally are going to digest food in every like 3-hour increments. Okay, so I've actually broken this up, how you should break it up to actually be able to utilize those nutrients and energy sources most efficiently throughout the day to help you build muscle and to help you gain weight. So there's a lot of speculation on this, but most of the research is basically stating that you're not going to absorb too much more than 30 grams of protein in every 3-hour time period. Okay? And so obviously if you wait an hour, then that protein is going to break down an hour later than the previous protein that you put into your body. After you actually are working out, that's the best time to put in a large quantity of these nutrients and good nutrients, especially protein, because your body will assimilate it better. Meaning that your cells will take in a higher quantity at a faster rate right after a workout. Okay, and so you want to spread this out because if I take in, 75 grams of protein in the morning, or 100 grams of protein in the morning, I might only utilize 50 of those grams over a 3-hour time period, and I discard the rest of it through my digestive system. So you need to spread these nutrients out, and then also when it comes to your carbs, which are your sugars, which are your energy sources, you don't want to just take in mass quantities because you'll spike in your blood sugar levels, you'll increase energy, and you will come down whether it's super high or whether it's steady. If you don't maintain that consistently throughout the day, you're just not going to have the energy you need. And then you could even tap into this in terms of just clarity throughout the day. If you're not eating regularly, you might not have enough clarity, and that can help just your ability to think and comprehend and understand just in school or at practice when you're learning a new thing, right? So your brain needs that clarity, it needs that understanding to be able to process the things that you're trying to learn as well. So yeah, got to spread this out. Any other questions? Okay, I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you. And again, I'll follow up with some information to condense this and just give it to you. It's like, hey, do this. Really simple. Okay, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you.